I ran across a cartoon this week that had a lot of people standing on a big sheet of paper. And they had giant pencils that were taller than them. And they were all drawing lines around themselves to make boxes that would exclude everybody else. I looked at it for a moment, and then I saw that one of them was Jesus. And he was using the eraser end of his pencil to erase the lines that they were drawing. The cartoon made me think of today's scriptures, which certainly got our attention, right? First, the prophet Isaiah tells us that foreigners will be welcomed in right along with those who inherited the land. Then Paul tells us that all have been disobedient and all are saved through God's mercy. Those who first came to the Lord have no place of priority. And Jesus, well, we hear some pretty shocking things coming out of his mouth today. The common thread in what we hear this morning seems to be a call to act out of the goodness of hearts that recognize God and God's will for the wholeness of all as our highest priority. A call to give up any pride of place that we think we have, whether it's as faithful churchgoers, Christians, U.S. Americans, or members of the historic majority race in this country. 2 weeks ago, we found Jesus trying to get away to a private place, being mobbed by 5,000 people who want their loved ones healed. After healing and comforting and teaching all day, his disciples want him to send the people away, get rid of the problem of how to feed them. Instead, Jesus provides food in the wilderness, an abundant feast. The crumbs left over filled 12 baskets. Last week, after dismissing the huge crowd and praying alone on a mountain, Jesus comes walking on the rough, white-capped water, terrifying his distressed disciples. Peter, trying to walk to Jesus on the water, is overcome by fear, and Jesus remarks on his little faith, the dividedness of his heart. And just before this morning's gospel reading, Jesus turns upside down the strict legalistic ideas of some Pharisees about what defiles a person. Purity, he tells us, comes not from strict obedience to particular laws, but rather from a heart that is fixed on God and God's priorities. Jesus says that the evil intentions, words, and deeds that come from a heart centered only on ourselves pollute not only us, but the whole world. Then Jesus tries again to get away to a private place, and this time he chooses a spot in Gentile territory, but his reputation for healing precedes him. How many of you like things to fit together neatly and be consistent and tuck in all those loose ends? My hand is up, and Joe, your hand better be up. And Beth, yours too. There we go. I know I'm more comfortable when things make sense to my own particular beliefs and worldview. And I'm guessing that that's true of some of you as well. I know it's true for a few of you. And I'm sorry, but today's gospel does not fit into that category. We get it, that the disciples once again want Jesus to send away the problem person in front of them. But it's deeply troubling to first see Jesus silent and unresponsive to a desperate mother's plea, and then to reject her request for help, calling her little daughter an ugly racist slur in the process. Dog was a favorite insult toward Gentiles in the ancient Middle East and remains an affront even today. There are a number of pretty divergent interpretations of Jesus' interchange with this Canaanite woman. Maybe he's testing her faith, maybe he's teaching the disciples a lesson, or maybe he's subject to the prejudices of the culture in which he was born and raised. The Bible tells us that Jesus was without sin, but not that he didn't learn and grow, even in awareness to God's purpose for him. One thing appears to be clear in today's text. Jesus expresses his mission from God as being only to the people of Israel. Now, he's said that before in Matthew's gospel, and it's interesting because 7 chapters before this, Jesus healed the servant of a Roman centurion, a Gentile, and said that his faith was greater than any Jesus had found in Israel. And he healed a Gentile demoniac as well. Also, remember that in the first chapter of Matthew, Jesus' genealogy includes 3 Gentile women as his ancestors. So we have this tension in today's reading, loose ends that aren't fitting together, and we need to wrestle with what it means. Maybe just sitting in the discomfort of it and not trying to tie it up with neat bows is a way to start. Last week, Jesus remarked on Peter's lack of faith, but this foreigner, this pagan, this Gentile woman recognizes Jesus as the Jewish Messiah, the son of King David, something none of the other disciples have done yet. She believes with all her heart that he can and will heal her daughter if she just persists. All she needs is a leftover crumb of a miracle, and Jesus praises her faith. Is her daughter healed because the woman wins a debate with Jesus? What would that say about God? Or could her daughter be healed because the woman reminds Jesus that she too should be included in God's mercy? She shows him that she is not other. Her heart is pure, undivided. She is not of 2 minds, but rather single-mindedly focused on Jesus and God's mercy that he can grant. That which comes out of her heart does not defile. It desires wholeness. It makes the world a better place. She has faith. What does all of this say to us about who we are and where we live today? All today's readings make clear that although we humans almost automatically move toward creating insiders and outsiders, that is not God's way. We are hardwired to group ourselves into clans and tribes of various affinity groups and view the other with suspicion and even hostility. Jesus showed us that there is no other. Every human is a beloved child entitled to mercy, forgiveness, and love. As Jesus followers, our call is to ask God to weed out the suspicions and divisions of our divided hearts, so that what flows out of us into the world makes peace and wholeness. We're called particularly at this time, I believe, to pay attention to racial and economic inequality in our country. This requires humility, a willingness to see ourselves not as the center, but as one beloved among all the beloved of God. To see ourselves as God sees us, incredibly beloved, but no better or worse than any other human, no more exceptional or deserving, and with no more inherent privilege than anyone else on earth. This may be a concept we attest, but it's more difficult than we imagine to live out in our daily lives. It's a process that takes time, intention, education, repentance, and growth. We start by listening with open hearts to the stories of those who are different from us, those on the margins, say at an IHELP dinner. Listening to the pain of the minority voices around us, taking it in and praying on what we are called to do. Only then can we begin to move toward the singleness of heart, the focus on Jesus that will bear the fruit of justice and peace. In today's gospel, we listen to the voice of the Canaanite woman. We felt her pain. We were uncomfortable with Jesus' response and his racial slur. Maybe this is a story that invites us to sit and reflect as we put ourselves in Jesus' place.